Hey loves, it's Britt, and in this video, I'm talking about the natal aspect of Moon square to Saturn. And I've been wanting to talk about this aspect for a long time. I've had a lot of experience with it with people close to me in my life. I'll share more on that in this video. And yeah, also, I just feel like it truly is one of the most difficult aspects to have in your natal chart. And also, I have the in conjunction between the moon and Saturn in my natal chart, which is kind of similar, but it will be a separate video because the square and the in conjunct aspects manifest very differently, although it is a similar energy between moon and Saturn. So, the moon is our deepest emotional part of ourselves. It's our feminine energy, it's our inner child, and it's what we need to feel emotionally fulfilled. And also, just the general way that we emotionally express and how we feel on a day to day basis. And it can definitely be more unconscious to us than, say, our sun. It's a more inner part of us. It's very instinctual. It's very much near and dear to us, our heart, our deepest feelings. So, when the moon is square to Saturn, which represents restrictions and even coldness, it shows our life's hardest lessons that we cannot avoid, that we must do, our karma in this lifetime, and what is really a struggle for us, but what we also have come to master. This shows usually a harder life. And, a lot of the hardness is rooted in when we were a child, when we were a small baby, or even going back farther than that, even in the womb. These people have a feeling of coldness, or even some of them feel like they were unwanted. They can feel like they were a mistake. The mother could be cold to them, or it might not be that she isn't loving, but she doesn't express love to them in the way that they need. And the person can feel unloved or unwanted or even worthless at times as far as their emotional needs go. Um, they can also, yeah, really feel like the mother might have had other things to do, that they felt that she prioritized over them. And so it might not have even been that, they weren't wanted, or that they weren't loved, or that, they weren't nurtured, but just that their emotional needs were, subordinate to things that the mother had to tend to. Maybe she was working, maybe she had, many other children, or there was just heavy burdens that she carried, and this person feels that as their own. And so they were basically born feeling that burden, feeling that heavy weight, and feeling that their emotional needs didn't matter as much as these other more important considerations in life. So usually there's going to be something of that kind of theme with the very early childhood, even like I said, baby in the womb. Like, this goes back deep. It probably is carried over from past lives as well. It's probably even a generational feeling. Quite likely the mother also did feel this way in her own childhood. It's kind of being passed on and passed down. So it's a very heavy, emotionally restricted aspect, because, like I said, the emotions were told, no, we don't have time to nurture you, we don't have time to even feel you or express you, because we have these more important things that we have to deal with first. And it could be financial things. That's actually something that I've seen very common with moon square to Saturn, is that especially in men, who have this aspect, it's like everything is about finances. As far as as they grow older, they start to be very financially focused, but kind of in a scarcity way, like there's never enough. And these men, some of them could be quite wealthy, quite rich even, but it's never enough. And it's never enough to fill that hole in their emotional self. So they can be very emotionally stunted, and seeking outer things, financial things, status symbols, even depending on the sign of the moon and Saturn, also. But they're seeking outwardly all this accumulation, but the real emotional fulfillment can be only found from within, and that's can be a harder lesson for men to learn, or those with a strong masculine energy, because this aspect can almost get kind of greedy because there was such a lack of emotional nurturance that they they come into this life almost like starved, and they just want everything, and they also feel unworthy, and they feel like, maybe if I have this, or maybe if I take this, and I keep working towards this, and I keep focused on my goals, and I keep manifesting, or you know um piling up all of these accomplishments, right? Saturn is telling them, you're not enough, you're not enough, you're not enough, keep doing more, keep doing more. Then maybe I will feel fulfilled, but the fulfillment never comes. So these people can end up kind of like a hamster on a wheel, where you're just constantly, seeking the next thing. And there isn't a lot of emotional peace in the moment. And that is something that they're learning, is that emotional serenity, emotional peace, emotional fulfillment isn't something that's going to come from external things. They can also be, actually, there's two manifestations of this. They can be very needy, like, and it depends what signs, like if the moon is in like a Pisces, or like, a water sign, that they can actually try to like suck emotional nurturance from the world around them, and be very needy, or very demanding of emotional support all the time. That's one manifestation. Or the other manifestation is the shutdown, where they're not even aware that they need anything emotionally, so they just seek it externally, right? Like the hamster on the wheel, seeking the finances, the possessions, the accomplishments, right? And they're just like constantly seeking. So there's two manifestations. And it can be a bit of both, right? The moon is also the most moody energy, so we're likely to fluctuate. And this position can definitely fluctuate emotionally, where yeah, sometimes it's like the valve opens up, and then there is all of this emotion, and there is maybe a crisis of unhappiness, a depression episode. And then other times, that it's all stuffed down, and it's they're not noticing it. So it's definitely one of the most difficult things. And because it's the moon, they don't realize that they're doing this. They don't realize why they feel this way. It is sort of unconscious. So the best thing, and my advice to them, although they may be resistant to doing this, is doing some type of inner child work, and some type of healing work, where they actually go back. And this is something I do in my healing sessions. Actually, you go back to your childhood, you go back to that traumatic moment. You can even energetically go back to the baby in the womb. That's something we learned in theta healing. You actually do a healing on the baby in the womb, or you do a healing on the baby. Like, it all goes back in the quantum field. It all, like, you can do a healing that goes back in time and actually helps you now. This is something I've done a lot in my healing work, but something like that, where you're going back to the childhood and going back to baby in the womb and healing these deep blocks, because it will feel like, for these people, nothing that they do in this moment, like if they're just doing like affirmations, or they might not even go that far, like as far as being reflective. They might just keep trying to accomplish and accumulate, right? So it's like nothing they do in this moment seems to really fill this hole. But when you go back in time and you do this kind of even past life healing, inner child healing, this is how we can fill up that. It's almost like a black hole in their heart that started from not feeling like they got the emotional support they needed. And we can fill that up by reparenting the inner child and, filling them with unconditional love and doing kind of like a quantum healing in the moment. But I won't go on about that. That's just kind of like what I feel like is the remedy for this aspect. Another common thing is like, even like as the baby, why does it do that? That's so weird. It did that on my Venus square Saturn video too, where that thumbs up comes up. So like as a baby, these people could have lacked actual closeness with the mother. Like maybe she was away, or there's something where they needed her, they needed the connection with her, and she wasn't there. And it could have been on purpose, or it could have been just because, like I said, other considerations, right? Maybe she was very busy, maybe she was working, maybe they were adopted, or there's some split between mother and child, which is part of what has caused the damage. Or maybe the father was demanding all the attention from the mother, and the mother didn't have enough to give to the baby, or it's just whatever. There could be a million stories, but something like that is common with this aspect. So the gifts of this aspect, though, is that emotionally, once they do a bit of work on this, or aware that this is going on, they actually care very deeply. They can be what they didn't receive in childhood, and quite likely there is a desire for that. It's like if they do have kids, they want to be what they didn't receive, and so they can end up being amazing parents because of what they felt. It's like they want to correct this, and that can definitely be a part of the karma of this aspect. Is like when they do choose to become parents and they're parenting their own child, it's like they do it differently, and they can be nurturing. Although it doesn't come natural, it definitely is something that their soul wants to express, and doing it on another, like doing it on a child, or even doing it on a partner, nurturing, it can help them learn how to do it on themselves. And that's what they really need to know, is that there's nothing wrong with them. Like it wasn't because they were bad, or that they were being punished, or they weren't supposed to be born. Even it can go back so deep like that they didn't receive the nurturance that they needed. It was nothing to do with them. They are good enough, they are worthy. It's not because of their accomplishments or their money, or anything they have externally. They're worthy just because they exist, and they're actually very talented, they're actually very resourceful, they're very, very hard workers. They will stop at nothing. So they have a lot of really good qualities, resilience. And usually there is a lot of challenges that they end up overcoming, maybe addictions, maybe depression, emotional things. They've overcome so much, and their story can end up being like a hero's journey, and so it can be really inspiring. But it's definitely a big challenge. It's definitely a very difficult aspect to have. I was actually raised, so my my father has this aspect with a Scorpio moon, and Saturn in Aquarius, and he always said that he was a mistake. He was much later born, and he had actually said that, like, I was a mistake. I was told I was a mistake. I was told I was adopted by my brothers and sisters. That was just a joke. But there is this feeling of, that they weren't wanted. And then my late husband, who actually passed away, very, very sad, depression, suicide. This aspect was afflicted in a T square Saturn. So Moon was opposing Neptune, both square Saturn, very close orb with the Moon and Saturn. I do feel that this contributed to a depressed episode. So you can definitely see this aspect show up in people that feel suicidal, at least periodically, because it is, yeah, a very difficult aspect emotionally. And also, yeah, he was born much later and felt he was a mistake, felt he wasn't supposed to be here. Like it's like it goes back so deep that these people feel unwanted or unloved or unworthy, and that really needs to be Yeah, healed at the root, and it's not going to be healed by anything they try to do mentally or physically. It's something, they got to get really deep there in the emotions to be able to heal this at the root. So, I don't want this to sound depressing. I mean, there's many cases of this aspect, people figuring it out and ending up being like the positive side of this aspect. Like I said, they can end up caring so much, and yeah, they have a heart of gold, and they've really gone through things which eventually does lead them to compassion for others. Although Saturn is a little bit of a slower planet to learn, to grow, actually, because it does kind of crystallize. That's why this is so hard to deal with in the emotions, because Saturn is, yeah, a little bit of a sticky, kind of stubborn energy. It's like you gotta dig through this. You gotta really get in there deep in the unconscious level, or nothing will seem to work. Nothing will seem to alleviate the emotional pain of this one. So, yeah, I'd love to know your experience of this aspect, if you've had it in your natal chart, or if you've known someone that's had this one. Let me know in the comments, you guys. And thank you for your requests. Thank you so much. And we'll talk soon. Bye.